Think of a single octopus arm. It moves with a liquid alien grace, coiling around a piece of coral so precisely that its suckers taste the surface of the coral with a chemical acuity your own tongue cannot match. Now imagine that arm is not merely a limb, but a secondary brain, operating with a degree of autonomy that your own spinal cord could never grant your fingers. That arm, with its thousands of sensory neurons, is already solving problems, while the central brain, a donut-shaped mass wrapped around the animal's esophagus, sits somewhere else, processing a completely different input stream. This is the animal that some scientists believe could inherit the Earth after we are gone. Not the cockroach, not the rat, but a soft-bodied, short-lived, ocean-dwelling mollusk with a beak of pure keratin and a nervous system so decentralized it seems to operate as a committee of independent minds. In 2024, Oxford zoologist Tim Coulson made the argument publicly and directly. Given the right conditions, octopuses could evolve into a civilization-building species after human extinction. Before you accept that vision, pause. This is the kind of claim that demands forensic examination. If you want to keep unearthing the hidden evidence behind stories like this, subscribe to this channel. And in the comments, leave the word inherit if you find the idea compelling, or flawed if you suspect the foundation is weak from the start. You have probably heard the claim in some form, perhaps on a podcast or a blog post, where it was presented as a playful thought experiment. A post-human world, silent of our industry, and from the depths of the ocean, a new architect rises. It is a compelling image, an almost cinematic inversion of the natural order. But here is the first crack in the fantasy. The very traits that make octopuses seem so alien and brilliant are the same traits that may chain them forever to a solitary, pre-civic existence. The first layer of the mystery is the beast itself. Octopuses are not just smart by invertebrate standards, they are smart by any standard. Over 300 recognized species exist, according to the World Register of Marine Species, and within that varied group, researchers have documented behaviors that feel more like science fiction than natural history. In a 2021 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a team led by Alexandra Schnell compared octopus problem-solving to that of other cognitively flexible taxa. The octopuses did not just manipulate tools, they planned, they remembered, they adapted. In a 2023 review co-authored by Jennifer Mather and Michael Kuba, published in the Canadian Journal of Zoology, the case was made clearly. Octopuses show flexible problem-solving, exploratory behavior, and sophisticated object manipulation. The evidence is robust, the claim is not. But here is the part no one talks about when they discuss octopus civilization. Mather and Kuba's review also notes that these behaviors emerge almost exclusively in solitary, short-lived individuals. Octopuses do not learn from their parents. There is no childhood, no period of cultural transmission, no passing down of knowledge from one generation to the next. The mother octopus, after guarding her eggs so obsessively that she refuses to eat, dies before her young even hatch. Every octopus that has ever lived has had to reinvent the entire toolkit of its species from scratch. No inherited knowledge, no accumulated tradition, no shared language. Think about the weight of that reality. Every octopus is born a blank slate, and it dies before it can teach anything. This is the wall that intelligence alone cannot scale. If you want to continue exploring these evolutionary dead ends and the creatures that defy them, subscribe to this channel, and in the comments, leave the word blank if you find that cycle tragic, or adaptive if you see it as an elegant survival strategy. That is the single, massive obstacle that intelligence alone cannot overcome. And it is the reason why Peter Godfrey Smith, the philosopher and biologist who has spent years studying octopus social behavior, offered a correction that directly contradicted the popular fantasy. In his interview with Popular Mechanics, Godfrey Smith said plainly that octopuses are not well set up to build a human-like society because of their social habits. He went further. For octopuses, he said, the first move they would have to make is to become more social. That is not a small step. That is an evolutionary chasm wider than any ocean trench. To cross it, octopuses would need to abandon the very lifestyle that shaped their decentralized nervous systems, their solitary hunting strategies, and their reproductive cycle that ends in programmed parental death. Consider the distributed neural architecture that makes an octopus so alien. A 2024 study in Nature, drawing on the collections of the Museum of Comparative Zoology and the work of J.Z. Young, documented the extent of this system. More than half of the octopus's neurons are not in its head, they are in its arms. Each arm can taste, feel, and react independently. In a 2015 paper in Current Biology, a team led by J.N. Richter demonstrated that octopus arms can perform coordinated, flexible actions using distributed neural control. This is not a bug. This is a profound evolutionary adaptation. It allows an octopus to search for food in every crevice of a reef, while its central brain monitors for predators. But it also makes coordinated social behavior incredibly difficult. How do you develop a shared language with a species where one individual's left arm might have a different opinion from its right arm? How do you build a civilization when every member is fundamentally a committee of independent agents that does not trust other committees? You might be starting to sense the unease that lies at the heart of the thought experiment. We want the octopus to be our successor because it is the strangest mirror we have. It evolved intelligence on a completely separate branch of the tree of life, one that diverged from vertebrates more than 600 million years ago. If octopuses can build a civilization, it would prove that intelligence is not a fluke of the primate lineage. It would prove that the universe is fertile ground for minds, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Timothy Coulson's original framing, repeated by outlets like the Genetic Literacy Project in November of 2024, was clear. It was a thought experiment about a post-human world, not a prediction. The actual science of octopus behavior reveals a creature of staggering ability trapped in a biological prison of its own making. An octopus can learn a maze in 3 trials. It can solve a puzzle box to reach a food reward. It can use a coconut shell as portable armor, but it cannot tell another octopus how it did any of those things. Now we reach the central dilemma that the thought experiment refuses to answer. If octopuses became social enough to build an underwater civilization, would they still be octopuses? The transformation would require changes so profound that the resulting animal might no longer be recognizable as a cephalopod at all. It would need longer lifespans, perhaps years instead of months. It would need parental care that extends beyond guarding eggs. It would need a centralized nervous system that can override the autonomy of the arms. It would need language. In other words, to build a city, the octopus would have to stop being an octopus. It would have to become something more like us, a creature of shared knowledge and social trust. And in becoming like us, it would lose exactly the alien qualities that made us see it as our successor in the first place. Peter Godfrey Smith has spent a career watching octopuses in the wild, and the more he watches, the more he is struck by their radical solitude. Even the larger Pacific-striped octopus, which a 2000 study in animal cognition by Godfrey Smith and his colleagues described as showing the beginnings of social behavior, still lives a life that is fundamentally alone. The social behaviors documented were limited to mating and brief interactions. No cooperative hunting, no shared dens, no passing on of knowledge. That loneliness is not a tragedy. It is a feature of a design that works perfectly for a soft-bodied predator living in a world of cracks and crevices. But it is also a wall that intelligence alone cannot climb. The tools for civilization are not just dexterity, curiosity, and the ability to communicate, qualities that Coulson listed in his original argument. They also include trust, cooperation, and the willingness to defer reward for the good of the group. Octopuses have never demonstrated any of these in the wild, and so the thought experiment collapses under the weight of its own evidence. It is not a question of whether octopuses are smart enough. It is a question of whether they are social enough, and the answer from every confirmed study is a firm no. The strange, sad truth is that the octopus may be the most intelligent creature ever to evolve without building a single, permanent structure, without domesticating a single other species, without leaving a single mark that would survive its own brief lifespan. That truth deserves a moment of silence. The octopus is a pinnacle of intelligence without a single monument. If this kind of biological mystery is what you crave, subscribe to this channel before the next puzzle slips away. And in the comments, share a single word that captures how this makes you feel about the octopus. Lonely, brilliant, trapped, or any other that resonates. We are left with a paradox. The octopus proves that intelligence can arise in forms we barely recognize, but it also proves that intelligence alone is not enough. Civilization requires a specific kind of social brain, one that the octopus, in its beautiful and alien solitude, has never possessed. And that is where the real wonder lies, not in the fantasy of a future underwater city, but in the stubborn mystery of a mind that sees the world so differently from our own that it has never even tried to build one. Maybe we need to ask a deeper question. What if the octopus is not a failed civilization builder? What if it is a successful life form that simply chose a different path? One where the accumulation of knowledge is not stored in cities or written language, but in the nervous system of each individual that must learn everything from scratch and then die, and then let the next generation start over? What if that is not a limitation, but a blueprint for a kind of existence we cannot comprehend? The next time you see a video of an octopus opening a jar, look past the trick. Watch the arm that is already tasting the glass. Watch the eye that is tracking the camera. Watch the creature that lives in a world of chemical signals, independent limbs, and a lifespan so short it never gets to pass on a single lesson it has learned. That is not a future civilization builder. That is something stranger, something that may be unreachable to us forever. And in that unreachability, the real secret lies.